couldn't fantasize about nothing more. And now it's midnight and the sun is out. What can we do? Go and spend it all where we wanna be. It's midnight and I was out of town to find myself a way to get myself out of this world. You were not about, and I blame myself. I should have blamed myself, or that's what I've heard. And now it's midnight and the sun is out. What can we do? Go and spend it all where we wanna be. We were out of line, out of our minds. We couldn't fantasize about nothing more. And now it's midnight and the sun is out. What can we do? Go and spend it all where we wanna be. It's midnight and should've blamed myself, or that's what I've heard. And now I'm standing out in the sun is out. What can we just go and spend it all where we wanna be? We were out of line, out of our minds. We could have fantasized about nothing more. And now I'm standing out in the sun is out. What can we just go and spend it all where we wanna be? It's late at night and I was out of town to find myself a way to get myself out of this world. You were not about, and I blame myself. I should have blamed myself, or that's what I've heard. And now I'm standing out and the sun is out. What can we just go and spend it all where we wanna be? We were out of line, out of our minds. We could have fantasized about nothing more. And now I'm standing out in the sun is out. What can we just go and spend it all where we wanna be? It's late at night and I was out of town to find myself a way to get myself.
Hello, thank you everyone for being here already. Welcome to our screening of Pandora's Box. So first and foremost, Changing the Flow and Days for Girls Canada acknowledge that Indigenous peoples are the traditional guardians of the stolen land that we call Canada. That this land is everywhere unceded and that we have a duty to acknowledge our relationship to the land upon which we live and work, and to prioritise initiatives that support reconciliation with local Indigenous communities. That the keepers of traditional Indigenous knowledge in every community are worthy of honour, consideration and respect. That courageous Indigenous leaders, young and old, deserve the ongoing support of all Canadians to create equal opportunities for everyone of this land, and that reconciliation will be successful when all Canadians have committed to learning about our shared past, listening to Indigenous truths and pursuing a new and more inclusive, collaborative and respectful path towards a better future. And I encourage those who've not used this resource before to head to native-land.ca to learn about where they are located. For example, in Waterloo, I am on land that is the traditional home of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe Anu peoples. And I also want to direct you to a great initiative, which is the Mohawk Institute Virtual Tour. So the Woodland Cultural Centre presents a virtual tour of the Mohawk Institute Residential School as a fundraiser for the Save the Evidence campaign. The Save the Evidence campaign is to raise awareness and support for the restoration of the former Mohawk Institute Residential School and to develop the building into an interpreted historic site and educational resource. So this is a $10 donation and the link will go into the chat for you to look into if you're interested. Okay, so to formally introduce myself, I'm Kate Elliott and my pronouns are she, her. I'm the co-founder of Changing the Flow and we are based in Waterloo region in Ontario. We are a social enterprise dedicated to menstrual equity. So our work is to destigmatize menstruation and ensure access to period products. So this event is jointly organised with Days for Girls Canada, who will now introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julia, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm the communications officer for Days for Girls Canada, and I'm really excited to be here tonight and watch this amazing film together. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you haven't heard of Days for Girls Canada, we're a nonprofit organization run completely by volunteers that prepares and distributes sustainable menstrual health solutions to menstruators all around the world who would otherwise miss school during their monthly periods. We're very excited to have in attendance tonight the founder and CEO of Days for Girls International, Celeste Mergens. So thank you for joining us tonight, Celeste. The film that we're watching tonight, Pandora's Box, shines a light on many individuals and organizations doing crucial menstrual equity work every day. And it's very exciting that one of the organizations featured is actually Days for Girls, so keep an eye out. Moving on, we are also pleased to announce tonight that the next Changing the Flow and Days for Girls Canada event that we will be hosting is on August 10th. The event will be about menstruation in the Waterloo region, and the research presented was led by our very own Kate Elliott from Changing the Flow. You can read more about this event at the registration link that was just posted in the chat. And if you register anytime from now until the end of the day on June 17th, you will get an early bird ticket plus a bonus registration. Before I hand it back off to Kate, I just wanted to also note that when Corinne is done speaking and it's time to watch the film, we will post the link in the chat, and from there, everyone will individually click on that link to watch Pandora's Box from there. You're welcome to stay or rejoin the Zoom webinar when you're done watching the film if you want to discuss afterwards, but you're also welcome to sign off for the night. It's up to you, but we will have the webinar open until 8 p.m. if anyone wants to come back afterwards to talk about the film and have an informal discussion. So thanks, that's all I have for this evening. Thanks, Kate.
Great, okay, so I am very pleased to welcome our special guest for this evening, Corinne Chambers-Svaney, as executive producer for Pandora's Box, the founder of DivaCares and CEO of Diva International, the makers of the DivaCup. Corinne is a passionate menstrual equity and women's health advocate. And so I'm so excited to welcome her as she joins us to speak a little bit about the film.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Kate and Kevin and the whole group. It's such an honor to be part of this and to say a few words about the film, especially knowing that everyone is going to get to watch it after. It's so exciting. So thanks, everyone, for joining. And as Kate said, I'm Corinne Chambers-Svaney. My pronouns are she, her. I'm CEO of Diva International and founder of DivaCares and executive producer of Pandora's Box. So the film you're about to watch really began in 2017. And I was given a really great opportunity when I was speaking at a conference with a group of amazing menstrual equity activists in New York City. And this was around November. And we were discussing the importance of the menstrual equity movement, sustainable period care options, and really how to end, how we can work together to end period poverty. And ahead of the conference, I decided to bring along an ambitious film crew. And we actually, the day of flew them in, or the night before flew them in from Toronto to New York. And I just had this inkling that we were going to capture something really integral to the conversations around menstruation. And so we started capturing all these incredible interviews. And at this point, there was not really a plan to make a documentary. We were just said, okay, we'll capture this footage. And we kind of had this idea brewing that we could possibly do a documentary, but we were thinking it might be maybe some kind of short film. And what ended up happening is, as our Pandora's Box crew traveled around the world, we were really discovering the even deeper inequities and inequalities being exposed. And it just didn't feel like we could really do the film justice. And so the film just kept evolving and growing, and we ended up filming in 5 different countries, I think 6 countries, over 5 continents. And we had an award-winning director, Rebecca Snow, all female casting, all female crew, pretty much, even down to the composer. All the score is original music. And it's just something that I'm really proud of. We've won several awards now at different film festivals. And I just think it's such an important topic that we can bring this film to create more conversations. And the shocking thing is that a lot of people didn't even realize when we were screening the film that these were issues. So it just goes to show how much work there is. And if you're in the menstrual equity movement, you know, it's kind of, it feels really big, but to the outside world, it's pretty small. Like, they don't really know much about it, or that it's an issue. So I think it's really cool that we have this film, that we can create more conversations. And the whole point is just, let's bring awareness, normalize conversations around menstruation. And this film, I think, really does that. So I'm just, I kind of go off track sometimes when I get excited. I think one of the great things, like, we're really excited to feature Days for Girls. That was just some of the most powerful stories have come from the stories, and you'll see in the film some incredible, and I think, heroines that talk about their struggle, and the amazing Days for Girls organization. Actually, just so you know, when we were filming when we were doing the film festival circuit, before everything got shut down for COVID, but we went to 2 different film festivals right before, and people were coming out like, how do I get in touch with Days for Girls? So that's how powerful the stories are. So hopefully you'll see that. And the film itself was fully 100% funded by Diva International, and in part made impossible by our social impact program, Diva Cares. Giving back has always been such a part of our ethos. And if you don't know who Diva International is, it was started 20 years ago now by my mom, Francine, and I. And we had a vision to change the world with our product, the DivaCup, and just have more sustainable options. We just had this vision that sustainable options should not be a hidden niche thing. They should be mainstream. So this film, like, when we started Diva, we quickly began doing donations and doing a lot of partnerships and creating educational materials. And that's just been kind of so hand in hand with the work that we were doing at Diva. And now in 2019, we formalized that into Diva Cares, into our organization. And every year we donate at least 15,000 cups and are serving over 190,000 periods a year. So it's really exciting. We love the work that we do. We have a full-time manager just to manage all of these incredible programs. And I feel like we're making a small difference in any way that we can, and encourage everyone, hopefully after seeing the film, if you're not in the menstrual equity movement already, that you may be motivated to have a conversation, or run a drive, or volunteer with one of these incredible organizations. You can visit divacares.com or our website, divacup.com to find out more about the program. And if you're also looking for up-to-date information on the fight for menstrual equity, I would strongly suggest following our Pandora's Box Instagram account. It's at Pandora's Box Film. I'm sure we can put that in the side thing because it doesn't have an O, so it's confusing. Or you can follow me as well at Carrying DivaCup or at the DivaCup on Instagram. And without further ado, I don't know if there's any questions that have come in while I'm here, but if not, I am so pleased, and it truly is my honor to present Pandora's Box, Lifting the Lid on Menstruation. I know you will love it, and it's just, it's so well done. And I have to say, again, kudos to our director, our team, our other producers, the amount of love and research and passion that went into this film, for filming for 2 years and now just trying to figure out how to get it distributed for the last 2 years, and the amount of time and energy and resources invested into it. I just hope that all of you can see that and get to enjoy it and enjoy. So thank you so much. To watch the film, as you can see, Kevin just posted, you can click the link above and the film will be right there and you can watch. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy, and hope to see you again soon.
Okay, hello. If anyone is still watching in a different tab, I'm sorry for interrupting with my voice. But we are now hosting, as we think most people will have finished watching the film if they had no interruptions, then we are hosting a mini Q&A. So do please put that into the chat, into either the Q&A or the chat, so that we can discuss or answer your questions, either just comments about the movie or questions for Changing the Flow or Days for Girls Canada. Myself and Julia are more than happy to talk about it because it's just so great. How did you find it, Julia?
I really enjoyed it. I see a lot of people saying that it gives them goosebumps, and I see exactly why. It was a really amazing film, and it really surprised me at the beginning when you were hearing the women talk about their first period, and they didn't even know what it was. So it's really amazing that you know, there's not that education, and it's just like it's surprising because you don't think that there are parts of the world where people aren't taught about this and that it's a normal process. So I think it's really great seeing how many people and how many organizations are devoted to this work, and yeah, I'm excited to be a part of that too.
Definitely, it's very as Changing the Flow is mainly focused on Canada. There's obviously a lot of cultural stigma too, and varying degrees within Canada, for example, but it's so important to remember that perspective of how different experiences are of menstruation all around the world, and how important it is to even just, it's not to say that the conversations aren't important here, because the problem is very much alive and real in Canada, but just to show that those conversations are still so important for having a global impact, and keeping that going, because even here, Changing the Flow, we've shared stories from multiple people who have all the supposed resources they need to handle their menstruation, the school given curriculum, the money to buy products, the access to a conversation that isn't as laden with shame, and they still don't know what to do with the tampon. Yeah. This is a reality in Canada, it's a reality in the UK where I grew up, and as was mentioned in the film, like, these are wealthy countries where period poverty is very real, and even without the financial barrier, people just don't know what to do with the products because no one's talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can see, like, whether it's in Canada or across the world, like, the problem is the same, and whether it's education or access, like, it's a human rights issue that needs to be addressed in every country. So
So someone just put into the Q&A, do you think this film could potentially be part of the school curriculum? What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I think the more people that watch the film, the better, because it's like, it doesn't hide anything. It doesn't beat around the bushes, and it's direct, and it shows you exactly what's going around in different parts of the world with regard to menstruation. So I think that would be a great idea to show this in school curriculums.
Definitely. And Pandora's Box 100% did an amazing job at being able to cover such a big issue. They took a global perspective. They talked about people who are incarcerated. They talked about trans and non-binary individuals. Like, there are so many human rights, as we say, issues involved in this. And to be able to fit that conversation into such a short amount of time is amazing. And obviously, each of those individual topics requires so much more conversation, right? But I think it's a really great entry point, and it gets people interested and excited. For me, it's goosebumps, and someone else had said that, it's getting that ready, and I think showing people from the start that perspective that, if you're a teenager or a preteen and you are getting your period for the first time, whether you know about it or not, as prepared as you can be, it's still scary the first time it happens. I think for maybe most people, I don't want to speak on behalf of everyone, but it's still a new experience, at a time in your life where so much is changing. And I think it is it's scary regardless. And so to have a film like this and access to this as a resource and all the information that it gives you to go and then research yourself, I think would be very comforting for people in school to realize kind of what they're a part of, and that they can like, it's so annoying that there's a whole movement around the horror and the stigma that's been attached to menstruation. You know, ideally that would not exist at all, as the activist in London said, was I want the Red Box Project to be redundant. Like, it's not a good thing that this exists, but it's to put a good spin on it is so powerful that this natural bodily function can just throw you into this exciting movement full of people who are so passionate and ready to talk about it and break down those barriers.
Definitely.
That's my take. So another question we have is, how do you think you could get men more involved in supporting this cause? And so by this, I am interpreting it to be cisgender men who have never and will never menstruate in their lives. As a cisgender woman, I don't have much insight into this, so I will speculate. I think that it's really talking about it, and I see Kevin, co-founder of Changing the Flow, has offered to give a male voice, and that would be amazing, Kevin, because yeah, from my perspective, is to open those conversations, because I understand that men may be uncomfortable at first to ask questions, not knowing how comfortable I am as a cisgender woman. And so I want to make sure that I am saying I am comfortable to receive questions and answer, like what happens, etc. But Kevin, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. And whoever to the questionnaire, wonderful, wonderful question. The very, very first thing that I would say is for men need to step up to get involved. And the first thing they can do is to listen and learn. Every single man that has ever existed came from a menstruator. And so whether they want to admit it or they recognize it or not, it is a core part of their very being. And that, I think, if you start from that perspective, as banal as that may sound to somebody who's reached adulthood, that's just reality. And beyond that one very important person in their life that gave them their life, they no doubt have menstruators very close to them that matter to them. So they can start by listening, by empathizing, by providing the dignity that that everybody deserves, and kind of start from there, I guess. So that's, and you'll notice I'm putting all that responsibility on the cis men. That's honestly where all the heavy lifting needs to happen. That said, if they're not here listening to this, because let's be honest, if I took a poll, I know that it's not a majority cis men in the audience. So we have to reach them. And anybody that's comfortable to pick up that mantle that is menstruating, I salute you. Find, start in your circle, I would say. And if you get rebuffed, move to the next person and or reach out to Changing the Flow. I'm happy to speak to every single man, and yeah, and or find people or find tips and ways so that the burden is not on my menstruating friends who already do an awful lot for us. So I'll stop there, and thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share with you.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, I'll share an anecdote for if there are any cis men other than Kevin listening, or if there are anyone listening. I think that this is both a lesson and an uplifting story that, spoiler alert, is being shared on Changing the Flow's social media on Friday. I believe it's scheduled to go out, so I'll give you all a sneak peek of that now. Is to share what my dad did with me, and it constantly makes me reflect on how clearly I was so privileged in how I grew up that I am here right now talking about it, that I grew up in a family that talked about menstruation as though it was normal, because it is. And so my dad was always, you know, very normal about menstruation. He did not co-found an organization dedicated to menstrual equity like Kevin did, but you know, I don't think there are too many of those. But for example, my dad had moved into a new apartment, and I was going over to stay for the first time. I'd never been, and he had a spare room with a bedside table, and when I got there were period products in there. He did not know what date I was due, but he knew that if his daughter, his menstruating daughter, was coming over and going to be comfortable in this place, then she needed these products, she being me. And I am so grateful to have had that experience. And at the time, you know, I didn't realize how profound it was. But that's not the reality for a lot of people. And so I'm so grateful for that. But I really wish it were the norm, because it's so easy to do that. And if you're not sure, if there are cis men who don't know what products to buy, I've seen people like pictures joking about lemon and lime flavor with like different color boxes of the yellow and green, like regular and super tampons. In my opinion, just ask. You can ask me if you'd like help. At Changing the Flow on Instagram, feel free to ask me, because I am ready to help with those questions. But as Kevin said, like, there does need to be some heavy lifting from the non-menstruators, rather than waiting for everyone else to offer it up. But that's my spiel about my dad. Do we have any new questions in here, or anything you would like to add, Julia?
I just wanted to say that was a really great story. I think that's kudos to your dad. Like, that's an amazing thing for him to do. And yeah, it should be a normal thing for people who don't menstruate to do, to support their menstruating friends and family, to always just have supplies in their bathroom, so that when they have guests over that do menstruate, they can feel comfortable in their house. And yeah, I think that's another way that men and people who do not menstruate can get involved in this conversation and make sure they're supporting people that do menstruate, is just having those products available in their homes for them.
Mm-hmm. And a bin. Let's think about a garbage can in a bathroom. If you don't do that yourself, I would consider doing it just from the dollar store or wherever. It's really helpful, and it really contributes to feeling like dignified when managing your period. And especially if a guest, you know, it's difficult to imagine with COVID, but if a guest maybe weren't comfortable in your house to sort of walk through your house with a used tampon, have a bin in your bathroom. We have a question that says, how would you as a young girl approach this with a dad? And yeah, I think this is a great question, and it's important for me to try and remember what's actually realistic. And as I just shared, my dad was very open about menstruation, and so I potentially have a very limited perspective here. I think for me, I would say that I don't know if I think that just explaining I've got my period and trying to do that without if you do feel safe and comfortable to do so, I think give ideally some hopeful credit that's hopefully due, that they will be able to respond well to that and explain what you need if you know what you need. And I think if not, try and find someone else in your life who could help aid that conversation and give you the advice on, for example, what you need, so that then maybe you can go to your dad and say, this is what I need, if that's kind of the barrier going on. But I would love to hear what you think, Julia, and also if anyone attending has a comment on that.
Yeah, I really agree with how you said to find maybe someone in your life that you're comfortable talking about this with, because I can see how as a young girl approaching her dad might be a bit more uncomfortable than a father approaching his daughter. But I think that for sure, find someone in your life that you're comfortable talking about it with. And, you know, on social media, even these days on the internet, there's so many resources. So, like, even just going to Changing the Flow on Instagram or Days for Girls, like, if you message one of those accounts, they would be happy to help you and like talk to you and answer any questions. So, yeah, I would say, because I know not a lot of, or I can't say this on behalf of all dads, but Kate definitely has a rare situation where her dad was so open, and that's really great, and it has to happen more. So until all the dads get there, yeah, like, there's lots of people who are willing to help and answer questions. So as a young girl, I would just seek out those resources.
Definitely. And yeah, I don't want to turn this into a fan club about my dad, as great as he is. But, you know, for example, he asked me, he said, I get really overwhelmed in the period product aisle. And this was before I had even gotten so involved in menstrual equity myself. He was like, he was just telling me the story of how he went to the grocery store and he was trying to buy period products to donate to the food bank, and he didn't know what to pick and he got really overwhelmed. And I was like, oh my goodness, you are a hero. That is so wholesome that no one prompted you to, and you went to go and buy the products and you got overwhelmed, and I just said anything or go for like regular, you know. But these are very valid questions that, you know, people who don't menstruate are not expected to automatically know. But I do think that the resources there, Google, as Julia said, Days for Girls Canada and Changing the Flow, we are ready. And so I don't think there are any new questions as of yet. So please do post those if you're interested. We are going to wrap up at 8, but I will use this opportunity to remind everyone about our next event that I think you can see on the screen here, Menstruation in Waterloo Region, a research roundtable. And so this is on August 10th. We are planning in advance at 1 p.m. and you can get your early bird ticket now by registering with the link, but it's on the page and it has been, yes, it's just posted in the chat. So this will be facilitated and led by me as the lead researcher, and this will be a 60-minute conversation where we will get to delve deeper into the data, and we're going to have a panel of community experts on what the research really means. And so for context, for those who may not know, is Changing the Flow recently released a research report called Menstruation in Waterloo Region, Insight into Experiences, Attitudes and Advancements, where we surveyed over 200 people who live and or work in Waterloo Region about kind of their experiences with menstruation and menstrual equity. And we produced this research report to analyze those and identify some key action items for where we think the region could go as a case study to be applied elsewhere, and also just as a way to leverage that change in our community here. And so, yeah, there's this research roundtable. We'll delve much deeper into this and be able to draw attention from a panel of expertise who have completely different perspectives. Just as we talk here, I saying about my dad, I know I don't have the same experiences as a lot of people, and so we really want to be able to highlight those, and you will be able to submit questions beforehand of the panel or as it's going on, and we are so excited to hear from so many different voices and community leaders. Okay, I see a question about linking the documentary. Kevin, if you are able to respond to that. And yeah, I think if there are no more coming through, then Julie and I will head off, but we'll keep the Zoom open for a few more minutes just in case there are questions coming through more technical. But other than that, I believe our conversation is over. Thank you so much to everyone for attending, and obviously to Days for Girls Canada for hosting with us.
Thank you, Kate, and thanks everyone for coming tonight.
Bye.
Bye.